The mining vessel Starkeeper drifted through the empty void between star systems, while its crew of 30 aliens struggled to stay alive after their main engine exploded during a routine jump through hyperspace, leaving them stranded in the darkest corner of the galaxy. Commander Zara pressed her forehands against the command console, watching the power levels drop steadily as her blue crystalline skin flickered with worry, because they had maybe 3 days of life support left and no one was answering their distress calls that had been broadcasting for 2 weeks straight. Her second in command was a creature named Vertex, who stood 9 feet tall with scales that changed color based on his emotions, and right now they were deep purple, which meant extreme fear, as he reported that 17 other vessels had received their signal, but all had declined to help. The crew came from 8 different species working together on this mining vessel, and they had families waiting for them on their homeworlds, but space was cruel and rescue missions were expensive, so most ships would not risk their own safety for strangers. In the medical bay, Dr. Kira used her 6 eyes to monitor the crew members who were already showing signs of oxygen deprivation, while her green tentacle arms moved between patients trying to keep everyone stable with their limited medical supplies. The youngest crew member was an alien named Luna, who had just turned 50 cycles old, which was barely an adult for her species, and she sat by the communication array sending the same message over and over, hoping someone would care enough to answer. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Lisa Morgan was loading cargo onto her ship the Phoenix when her communication officer picked up a faint distress signal from deep space that the computer said was 3 weeks away at maximum speed. Her crew consisted of 5 humans who had been working together for 2 years running cargo between Earth colonies, and they were scheduled to deliver medical supplies to Mars, but Lisa kept staring at the distress signal coordinates on her screen. The first mate was a woman named Amy Chen, who had served in the Earth Defense Force before joining Lisa's crew, and she immediately recognized that the signal was coming from a region known for pirate activity and equipment failures. The engineer was called Betty Rodriguez, and she calculated that they had just enough fuel to reach the coordinates and return, but it would use up their entire reserve, leaving no room for error if something went wrong during the rescue. The pilot, Katie Washington, pointed out that the distress signal was using an alien frequency, which meant this was not a human vessel, and Earth regulations did not require them to respond to non-human emergencies, especially in dangerous space. The medic, Jane Foster, checked their medical supplies and confirmed they had enough to treat humans, but had no idea if their medicine would work on alien biology, and the wrong treatment could kill them faster than leaving them alone. Lisa gathered her crew in the mess hall and put the decision to a vote, because she believed every life mattered, but she would not force her crew to risk their lives for strangers they had never met and might never meet again. Amy voted yes immediately, saying she had not joined the Defense Force, and then a cargo crew, just to ignore people who needed help, and that humans had to be better than the cold equations of profit and loss. Betty was worried about the fuel situation but agreed to go if they could modify the engines to be more efficient during the journey, and she started calculating new routes that would use gravitational slingshots to save power. Katie expressed concern about pirates but said her flying skills could keep them safe, and she had always wanted to meet aliens anyway, since Earth had only made contact with 3 species so far, and they were all pretty boring. Jane voted yes, but insisted they stop at the nearest station to load up on broad-spectrum antibiotics and radiation medicine that might work on different biologies, even if it was not perfect. The vote was unanimous, and Lisa sent a response to the alien vessel saying help was coming, and to hold on for 3 more weeks, which seemed impossible, but they had to try anyway. On the Starkeeper, Zara could not believe the translation was correct when a human vessel responded to their call, because humans were known as a young species that had barely left their own solar system, and their technology was centuries behind everyone else. Vertex pulled up everything they knew about humans, which was not much, except that they were bipedal mammals who somehow survived on a planet with extreme weather changes and multiple predator species that should have killed them off millions of years ago. The database said humans were considered a curiosity by most galactic civilizations because they were physically weak compared to other species but had an unusual ability to adapt to different environments and survive injuries that would kill most creatures. Kira remembered reading a medical journal about humans having redundant organs and a healing factor that let them recover from wounds that would be fatal to her species. But she had dismissed it as exaggeration since no one could be that resilient. Luna felt hope for the first time in weeks, because even if humans were primitive, they were coming, and that meant someone in the universe had heard their call and decided they were worth saving, despite the danger and distance. The crew started preparing for the human arrival by clearing their smallest docking bay, since human ships were tiny compared to galactic standard, and trying to modify their translators to understand human language, which had hundreds of variations. Zara ordered everyone to conserve oxygen by staying in their quarters and moving as little as possible while she maintained minimal power to keep the distress beacon running so the humans could find them in the vastness of space days, passed slowly as the Starkeeper drifted further from any trade routes and the temperature dropped to dangerous levels, but the crew held on to the promise that a small human ship was racing through space to reach them. The Phoenix pushed through space at speeds that made the hull groan, while Lisa and her crew took shifts monitoring the engines that Betty had modified to run hotter than recommended. But every hour counted for the aliens waiting in the dark. Amy studied everything she could find about the region they were heading into, and discovered it was called the Dead Zone by traders, because ships that entered often never came back, either due to equipment failures or something worse that no one talked about. The human crew had to make 3 stops for fuel, using up most of their credits and cargo profits. But Lisa never hesitated to pay even when the station owners charged triple price because they knew the humans were desperate. Betty worked 18-hour shifts keeping the engines from melting down, while Katie plotted courses through asteroid fields and debris clouds that saved them days of travel time, even though one mistake would destroy their ship instantly. Jane organized their medical supplies into packages based on what might work for different biological systems, and she studied xenobiology texts she downloaded from the last station, trying to understand how to help creatures she had never seen. 2 weeks into their journey, they received a weak transmission from the Starkeeper saying 3 crew members had died and they were down to their last day of oxygen. But Zara promised they would hold on somehow until the humans arrived. Lisa pushed the Phoenix even harder after that message, and the crew stopped sleeping in shifts, so someone was always watching the engines and navigation while they ate protein bars and drank recycled water that tasted like metal on the Starkeeper. The situation grew desperate as more aliens collapsed from oxygen deprivation, and Zara had to make the terrible decision to seal off sections of the ship to preserve air for the survivors who crowded into the command center vertex. Suggested they should prepare for the possibility that the humans were lying or would demand payment they could not afford. But Zara refused to believe that anyone would travel this far just to take advantage of dying creatures. Kira kept her patients sedated to reduce their oxygen consumption, while Luna maintained the distress beacon with the last of their power, and everyone who was still conscious took turns watching the sensors for any sign of approaching vessels. The crew members who were still awake shared stories about their homeworlds and families to keep their spirits up while trying not to think about how they would never see them again if the humans did not arrive in time. Some of the aliens had never seen a human before, and they wondered what kind of creatures would risk everything to save strangers when their own species had abandoned them to die in the coldness of space. The Phoenix finally appeared on their sensors like a tiny dot moving faster than should be possible for such a small ship, and Luna started crying, which looked strange with her 3 eyes as she announced the humans had arrived. Lisa brought the Phoenix alongside the massive alien vessel that was 10 times the size of her ship, and she could see the hull was covered in frost from the failing life support systems that were barely keeping the inhabitants alive. The docking procedure was complicated because the alien ship used different connecting mechanisms, but Betty managed to create a seal using emergency foam and magnetic clamps that would hold long enough for them to transfer supplies. Lisa was the first through the airlock, wearing a basic environment suit and carrying bags of oxygen canisters, while Amy and Jane followed with medical supplies and portable heaters that might help the freezing aliens. The command center looked like a battlefield with aliens of different species lying on the floor or slumped over consoles, and Lisa immediately started distributing oxygen masks, even though they were designed for human faces and did not fit properly. Zara stood up when the humans entered, and even in her weakened state she towered over them at 7 feet tall, with her blue, crystalline skin dim from lack of oxygen. but her four hands moved gracefully in what Lisa hoped was a greeting. The translator crackled to life as Zara said she could not believe humans had actually come, and Lisa replied that where she came from, people helped each other, and it did not matter what planet they were from. Amy and Katie began moving, the weakest aliens closer to the portable heaters, while Jane started checking vital signs with her medical scanner that was not calibrated for alien biology, but gave her basic information about heart rates and breathing. Betty worked on the alien ship systems, trying to understand their technology that was far more advanced than anything on Earth, but broken in ways that even primitive human knowledge could sometimes fix with simple solutions. The aliens who were conscious watched in amazement as these small, fragile humans worked without rest to save them, and Luna asked Lisa why they had risked their lives for strangers who could offer them nothing in return. Lisa paused in her work and told Luna that humans had a saying about how the measure of a person was what they did when no one was watching, and that helping others was just what humans did. Jane discovered that the radiation leak from the broken engine was the main problem, and while it would kill most species quickly, humans had a strange resistance to this particular type of energy that let them work in the contaminated areas. Without hesitation, Lisa entered the engine room, where radiation levels were lethal to the alien crew, and she began repairs using basic tools from the Phoenix while her suit registered dangerous exposure levels that she ignored. Zara watched through the monitors as this human worked in conditions that would instantly kill any of her crew, and she realized the database was wrong about humans being weak because strength came in different forms. The other humans joined Lisa in the engine room, taking turns to limit their exposure, while they welded broken pipes and rerouted power through damaged circuits, using techniques that seemed primitive but worked perfectly. After 6 hours of non-stop work, they managed to stop the radiation leak and restart the life support systems, bringing warmth and oxygen back to the dying ship, while the alien crew slowly began to recover. The alien crew slowly recovered over the next few hours as oxygen flowed through the ship again, and Jane moved between patients administering human medicine that surprisingly helped with their radiation sickness, even though it was designed for completely different biology. Vertex approached Betty, who was still working on the engine systems, and his scales shifted to yellow, which meant curiosity as he watched her use simple tools to fix technology that his own engineers could not repair. With all their advanced equipment, the alien engineer explained that their systems were so sophisticated they required specific parts and programs to fix, but humans seemed to find ways around problems using basic materials and creative thinking that defied conventional engineering logic. Betty laughed and told him that humans called it percussive maintenance, which meant hitting things until they worked, and while it sounded primitive, it had saved more human ships than any advanced diagnostic system ever created. Kira worked alongside Jane, comparing medical techniques, and discovered that human medicine focused on helping the body heal itself, while alien medicine tried to control every aspect of healing, which sometimes made things worse. When systems were damaged, the doctor was fascinated by how humans could survive injuries that would kill most species instantly, and Jane explained that human evolution on Earth had been brutal, with countless predators, diseases, and disasters forcing them to develop incredible resilience. Luna spent time with Katie learning about Earth and was amazed that humans had achieved space travel despite constant wars between their own nations, and asked how they worked together when they could not even agree on basic things. Katie explained that humans were complicated, and yes, they fought among themselves, but when faced with external threats or when someone needed help, they could unite faster than any species in the galaxy because crisis brought out their best qualities. Amy helped organize the alien crew into repair teams and noticed how different species struggled to work together due to communication barriers and cultural differences, but humans seemed naturally able to coordinate with anyone. Lisa and Zara stood on the bridge looking at star charts, and the commander asked how humans navigated space without quantum computers or probability drives, and Lisa said they used math instinct and sometimes just lucky guesses. The conversation turned to why humans had answered their distress call, and Lisa explained that humans had stories going back thousands of years about helping travelers in need, and it was part of their cultural DNA to respond when someone called for help. Zara revealed that her species had developed faster than light travel 2,000 years ago, and looked down on younger races. But watching the humans work, she realized that technology was not the only measure of advancement. The commander asked if Earth had laws requiring ships to respond to distress calls, and Lisa said no. But there were older laws that humans carried in their hearts about doing the right thing, even when no one was making them. As the alien crew grew stronger, they began to share their food with the humans who tried things that looked impossible to eat. But Amy said humans were omnivores who could digest almost anything, which shocked the aliens. Vertex showed Betty the star maps of their galaxy and pointed out the hundreds of civilizations that had ignored their distress call, including some who were known for their supposed enlightenment and moral superiority. The human crew learned that space politics were complicated, with alliances and trade agreements that prevented many species from helping others without permission from their governments, but humans had no such restrictions. Being new to space, Luna asked Katie to teach her about Earth music, and was confused by how humans created art from sound waves but found it beautiful. Even though her species communicated through color changes on their skin, Jane discovered that one of the injured aliens was pregnant and worked with Kira to ensure the baby would survive using a combination of human and alien medical techniques that had never been tried before. The crew shared stories during the sleep cycle, and the aliens were amazed by human history, how they had gone from cave dwellers to space travelers in just a few thousand years when most species took millions. Amy told them about human wars and how destructive they could be, but also how humans learned from conflict, and often their greatest advances came from trying to solve problems created by their own mistakes. Betty explained human engineering, which was based on making things work with whatever was available, rather than waiting for perfect conditions, and this philosophy had let them reach space using chemical rockets that other species considered antiques. The aliens could not understand how humans maintained hope in situations that seemed impossible, and Lisa said humans had a word called stubborn, which meant refusing to give up even when logic said they should. As the Starkeeper became fully functional again, the crew began to discuss what they could offer the humans as payment, but every time they brought it up, Lisa and her crew refused, saying seeing everyone alive was reward enough. Vertex pulled up the galactic database entry on humans and began editing it, removing words like primitive and weak and replacing them with resilient, compassionate, and innovative. Based on what he had witnessed, Kira started writing a medical paper about human healing abilities and their resistance to radiation that would change how the galaxy viewed this young species who seemed fragile but were anything but weak. The alien crew learned that the Phoenix had used all its fuel and profits to reach them, and they were stuck here too. But the humans were not worried, saying they would figure something out because they always did. Luna created an artwork using her color-changing abilities that showed the moment the Phoenix arrived, and gave it to Lisa, who cried because humans leaked water from their eyes when experiencing strong emotions, which fascinated the aliens. The two crews worked together to repair both ships, and the aliens shared their advanced knowledge, while humans showed them simple solutions that worked better than complex ones in emergency situations. Zara realized that humans might not have the fastest ships or the best weapons, but they had something more valuable, which was the ability to inspire others and bring different species together through their actions. As the repairs continued, the alien crew stopped seeing the humans as primitive and started seeing them as equals, or perhaps even teachers who had lessons to share about survival, courage, and compassion. The fuel situation became critical. When Betty calculated, they needed at least 10,000 credits worth of fuel to get either ship to the nearest station, but between both crews they had less than 100 credits remaining. Zara called a meeting of both crews and explained that her ship had valuable mining equipment and rare minerals in the cargo hold, but they were 3 weeks from any buyer, and neither ship could make the journey. Lisa suggested they could combine resources from both ships to create one working vessel, but that would mean abandoning one ship which represented everything either crew had worked for. Vertex proposed sending another distress signal now that they were stable, but Amy pointed out that nobody had helped before and they were unlikely to help now, especially since they were even further from civilization. The situation seemed hopeless until Jane remembered something from her medical training about how certain alien biological waste products could be refined into fuel compounds if processed correctly. Though it had never been tested, Kira confirmed that their species did produce those compounds, but they would need to build a processing system from scratch using parts from both ships, which could take weeks they did not have. Betty and Vertex worked together designing a fuel processor using human creativity and alien knowledge, while the rest of the crews began the disgusting job of collecting biological waste from the past 3 weeks. Luna kept spirits up by teaching the humans her species' color language, while Katie shared human jokes that needed so much cultural explanation. They became funnier in the telling than the actual punchline. The processor was built in 4 days using pieces from the Phoenix coffee maker and the Starkeeper's food synthesizer, among other things, and it looked like something from a nightmare, but Betty swore it would work. The first test batch of fuel exploded, taking out a storage room, but nobody was hurt, and Vertex noted that humans seemed to find explosions exciting rather than terrifying, which explained a lot about their history. Amy organized combat drills, mixing human and alien crew members together, because she said they were in dangerous space and needed to be ready for anything, even though they had no weapons worth mentioning. The second batch of fuel worked but produced only enough for 1 hour of flight, so they refined the process, adding elements from Kira's medical supplies and Jane's emergency rations to catalyze the reaction. During the long hours of fuel production, Lisa and Zara talked about their homes and families, with Zara learning that Lisa had no family left, but considered her crew her chosen family, which was a concept her species did not have. The commander shared that her species reproduced through crystalline fragmentation, meaning she had no parents or children in the human sense, but thousands of identical siblings, which Lisa found both sad and fascinating. Katie taught Luna to play human card games, which required lying about your cards, and the alien could not understand why humans would make games based on deception, but found them oddly enjoyable. Jane successfully delivered the alien baby with Kira's help, and the parent named the child Phoenix after the human ship, which would become a popular name among that species for generations. The fuel production continued slowly, and they calculated it would take another week to make enough for both ships to reach safety, but their food supplies would run out in 5 days. Lisa proposed rationing, but discovered that humans could eat many things the aliens considered waste products, while aliens could digest minerals that would kill humans. So they redistributed food accordingly. Betty created a water recycling system that was so efficient, it actually produced more clean water than they started with by extracting moisture from the air and various ship systems. Vertex admitted to Amy that his species had originally looked down on humans for still having wars and conflicts, but now understood that conflict had taught humans to be adaptable and resourceful in ways peaceful species never learned. The alien crew shared their advanced theoretical knowledge while humans demonstrated practical applications, and together they solved problems neither group could have handled alone. On the 6th day, sensors detected 3 ships approaching fast, and Vertex identified them as pirates who probably detected their distress signals and were coming to salvage both vessels. Amy immediately took charge of defense planning, even though they had no real weapons, and she organized both crews into teams based on their species' abilities and strengths. Humans revealed they had brought mining charges for asteroid work that could be weaponized, and Betty started modifying them, while the aliens used their technical knowledge to boost sensor range. Lisa suggested they could use the fuel processor as a weapon by overloading it, but that would strand them here forever, and Zara said she would rather die fighting than surrender to pirates. Katie programmed the Phoenix to fly remotely, while Jane and Kira prepared medical stations for casualties, and Luna used her communication skills to send false signals, making it seem like more ships were present. The pirates sent a transmission demanding surrender, and Lisa responded by laughing and telling them they were dealing with humans who had a tradition of fighting impossible odds just for the fun of it. This confused the pirates, who had never encountered humans before, and they hesitated, giving Betty time to finish her modifications, turning mining charges into proximity mines. The first pirate ship approached cautiously and flew right into Katie's trap, where the remote-controlled Phoenix rammed it, while detonating 2 charges, destroying both ships but saving the crews. The second pirate ship opened fire, but Vertex had modified the shields to use power from the fuel processor, creating an unstable but powerful barrier that absorbed the energy blasts. Amy led a boarding party of humans and aliens onto the second pirate ship, while they were confused and they took control of the bridge in 7 minutes using tactics that mixed human aggression with alien abilities. The third pirate ship tried to flee, but Luna had hacked their navigation, sending them in circles while Betty overloaded their engines with a virus she created from combining human and alien code. When the dust settled, they had captured 2 pirate ships with enough fuel and supplies to last months, plus bounties on the pirates that would make both crews wealthy enough to buy new ships. The captured pirate ships gave both crews more than they had ever dreamed of having. But the real treasure was the alliance they had formed through survival, and neither crew wanted to separate yet. Lisa suggested they travel together to the nearest station to collect the bounties and resupply, and Zara agreed, adding that her crew needed to tell the galaxy what humans were really like. The journey took 5 days using the pirate ship's fuel, and during that time the mixed crews learned more about each other, with humans teaching aliens games and aliens showing humans advanced mathematics. When they reached Harmony Station, the docking officials were shocked to see humans and aliens working together on pirate ships, and even more shocked when they learned the whole story of the rescue. News of the human rescue spread through the station like wildfire, and within hours reporters from 12 different species were requesting interviews with Lisa and her crew, who seemed confused by the attention. The bounty for the pirates was enormous enough to buy 3 new ships, but Lisa insisted on splitting it evenly between all crew members, regardless of species, which was unheard of in galactic society. Zara presented her report to the Galactic Council representative at the station, stating that humans should be given full membership status instead of observer status based on their actions and values. The representative was skeptical until Vertex provided sensor logs showing humans working in lethal radiation, and Kira submitted medical data, proving human resilience was not exaggeration, but biological fact. Luna created an art installation in the station plaza, showing the rescue through color patterns that moved viewers to tears or whatever their species equivalent was, and many came to meet the humans. Jane was offered positions at 3 different alien medical facilities who wanted to study human healing, but she chose to stay with Lisa, saying her crew was her family, and family stayed together. Betty received job offers from major engineering firms who wanted to understand human creative problem solving, but she also refused, saying she had found something better than money, which was purpose. Amy was approached by military representatives who wanted to hire humans as trainers, but she told them humans would not fight other people's wars, though they would always help those in need. Katie started teaching pilot classes to mixed species groups, showing them that flying was not just about technology, but about feeling the ship and understanding space in ways computers could not calculate. The station merchants discovered that humans would buy and eat almost anything, leading to a boom in food trade, while humans introduced aliens to the concept of comfort food, which had not existed before. Within a week, 3 more human ships arrived at the station, having heard about the rescue and wanting to meet the aliens who had welcomed their kind as heroes, rather than primitives. The Galactic Council called an emergency session to discuss humanity, and Zara testified that humans possessed qualities the galaxy desperately needed, including courage, compassion, and the ability to unite different species. Vertex presented his engineering analysis showing that human technology might be simple, but it was reliable and adaptable in ways that advanced technology was not, especially in crisis situations. Kira submitted her medical research proving that humans could survive in environments that would kill other species, making them ideal for rescue operations and exploration of dangerous regions. Luna performed her art for the council, showing through color and movement how humans had saved them, not with superior technology, but with superior hearts and the will to help strangers. The council voted to offer humanity full membership with trade rights and protection, but Earth government had not even known about the rescue, and was surprised to suddenly be welcomed into galactic society. Lisa and her crew became ambassadors without meaning to, and they traveled between worlds telling their story and showing that humans might be new to space, but they brought something special. The Phoenix was rebuilt with alien technology, but Lisa kept the original design, saying she wanted everyone to know that a simple human cargo ship had made the difference when it mattered. Zara was promoted to admiral and given command of a fleet, but she requested that human advisors be assigned to all ships because their perspective and problem-solving had proven invaluable. Within a year, human rescue teams were stationed throughout the galaxy, and they became known as the ones who would always come when called. No matter how dangerous or impossible the situation, pirates learned to fear human ships not because they were heavily armed, but because humans would fight with anything available and never gave up, turning desperate situations into victories. Trade increased between Earth and other worlds as species discovered that humans could find uses for things others considered waste, and could create solutions with minimal resources. Betty and Vertex started a company combining human and alien engineering, principles creating hybrid technology that was both advanced and practical, revolutionizing ship design across the galaxy. Jane and Kira opened a medical center that treated all species using combined techniques, and it became the most successful hospital in 3 sectors because they treated the patient, not just the symptoms. Katie founded a flight school that accepted students from any species and taught them that piloting was an art as much as a science, producing the best pilots the galaxy had ever seen. Amy started a crisis response team that trained mixed species crews in human survival tactics and alien technical skills, creating the most effective emergency service in known space. Luna became a famous artist using her experiences to create works that helped different species understand each other, and her piece about the rescue became the most viewed art in galactic history. Lisa continued flying cargo runs, but now her ship carried a beacon that identified her as the human who had started it all, and everywhere she went, beings wanted to thank her. The story of the rescue became legend and was taught in schools across the galaxy as an example of how one act of compassion could change the course of history. Humans were no longer seen as primitive, but as a young species with old souls who understood that true strength came from helping others, and that technology meant nothing without heart. Years later, when Zara was asked what made humans special, she would say, it was not their resilience or adaptability, but their simple belief that every life mattered and every call for help deserved an answer. And so humanity found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or traitors, but as the ones who would always come when others called for help in the darkness of space.